I'm Detective Les Glorner with the Upper Merion Township Police Department. I've been at the Upper Merion Police Department for 15 years now. I'm currently assigned to the Juvenile Sex Crime Division. I've worked as a detective in this division for the past 8 years. Human trafficking comes in all different kinds of forms. You have those individuals that are being forced to work, whether it's, as a nanny or as a house cleaner. You have those that are in the prostitution end of it. They're probably primarily the two biggest ones. And then you also have the human trafficking end in the massage parlors, or primarily the Asian massage parlors, which are called AMPs for short. And that could be a combination of adults and juveniles being trafficked, forced to work, and primarily that is coming out of China or other parts of Asia, but primarily China. Unfortunately, those smaller villages in China, people go in, they don't have a whole lot of money to live off of, so they need to find ways. And unfortunately, people go in and take the kids or take those teenage girls or teenage boys out of that village to force to work in, whether it's sweatshops or other businesses or the sex trade. And the parents will pay those people to take their kids, which is even more of a sad end of it. To them it may be whatever, it's 300 yen or whatever the Chinese currency is at that point in time, or whatever they're using, but what it works out to be is 40 American dollars is what they're paying to have their kid being trafficked. And then after a certain amount of time, then they have to pay a lot more money to try and get their kid back. So it's very unfortunate, how the process goes. But what we're seeing in Upper Merion or the King of Prussia area is more of the adult prostitution end of it. But every city, to sit there and say, do we have a problem? Well, I wouldn't consider it a problem. I would consider it an issue. Any bigger city like Philadelphia, Sacramento, Dallas, Texas. Dallas has a lot of underage girls. They're probably getting 100 girls a year that they're pulling off the streets, primarily runaways. Sacramento, California is huge. They're probably getting between 150 and 200 girls. Seattle's big. Probably the same thing. Probably 150 to 200. New York, Washington D.C. There was just a recent arrest down in Washington D.C. where 10 gang members from the Crips, the underground Crips, were going to the local schools and forcing underage girls between 16 and 18 to prostitute. A lot of the gangs, street gangs, are starting to get into this because the money, they'll get if you have a girl that's working, for $50 a trick or $100 a trick, they're being forced to do $1,000 to $3,000 a night or a day. Their work shift is in 8 to 4. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, till 4 o'clock in the morning. Sleep, little to eat, back out there again at 8 o'clock, and you better be bringing home a certain amount of money, otherwise you're going to get beat. And that's with either coat hangers, cigarette burns, with a baseball bat, broken jaws, stitches, concussions. You may go to a hospital, you may see a doctor, but that pimp's going to pay for it. But in the end, it's going to be almost like the Stockholm Syndrome. You're going to start loving that protector after a while because, that's the only person you're feeling loved at this point in time. So, which is very unfortunate. But that's how basically the human trafficking end of it works. We don't see, or we have yet to see it here in King of Prussia. Is it out there? I'm sure it's out there, but it's very hard to find because it's kept low key because of the amount of time that an individual can do time for, especially on federal charges. Their mandatory minimum is 10 or 15 years for the minimum. Mandatory could be 20 to 25. So they know they could get in a lot of trouble, but it's not like drugs or guns where it's on the street corner or constantly out there. They keep it hidden. So to have one of those girls to turn on their pimp, it's very hard to get them to go to court and testify against that individual. So.